Unzipped with Sherry is a bariatric podcast talking about weight loss surgery. I am not a licensed professional. Any views and or opinions expressed in the show are those of the speakers and do not reflect the bariatric community as a whole. Always reach out to a professional with any medical issues you are experiencing. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unzipped with Sherry, with yours truly. As always, I'm Sherry. I am really excited for this week's episode. So we're going to be talking with Kate, and what's really fascinating about Kate is, one, she has an amazing story. She has an amazing heart. We have become friends over the last few months. I absolutely love her, and I actually wanted her to be on the show just to talk about her story. But one thing that came up when we were talking about her journey is that she worked as a bariatric coordinator, and she was in the room when many people were having their surgeries. And there is shit that she told me that completely blew my mind, that I was like, we definitely need to be talking about this on the show today. So I hope you guys are ready. I hope you guys are watching. You are providing us with comments. She is an open book, just like I am. So she will answer pretty much anything that you have to ask. And on that note, Kate, I hope that you're ready, because we're about to get unzipped. We all have a story on how we got here, right? So for me, I used to be over 350 pounds until one day I made the single decision that I wanted change. Weight loss surgery has saved my life, and now I am here for you. I want to hear your story. You know, the one that happened during that before and after picture. It's time to unzip. What's your story? Hello, lady. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. First and foremost, do you prefer Kate or do you prefer Katie?
Either one is fine.
Because I like Katie. I like Katie Bug personally.
I like Katie Bug too. I do.
Okay, good answer. So we're gonna have fun on today's show, because usually I send everybody a list of like all of the topics that we're gonna discuss, and Sherry dropped the ball this week, so I didn't send Katie like a list. So she's gonna be surprised at what we're gonna be asking. But I also encourage you guys who are watching live with us right now to provide your questions, comments, concerns, anything that you want to know. First and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time today to be with us and sharing your story.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this, and this is awesome. And you look so beautiful, and thank you for your beautiful, kind words.
Absolutely. I told you, like, I freaking love your heart, and I cannot wait to meet you in the very near future. I think it's in like less than 30 days we're going to meet in person, and I'm going to give you the biggest hug. So Tanya's in class right now, but she's going to watch it later on replay. And if you guys are new to this, after the show, we are still available on YouTube, and then you will be uploaded. No pressure, Katie. You will be uploaded to Spotify and iTunes and Amazon Play and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, like wherever there's an option for this to be on, I'm putting it everywhere.
No pressure, like no
pressure whatsoever. No
pressure.
But you know what?
All the things.
It's literally just you and me. It's just
True
you and me
story.
talking. True story. We're the only ones that matter right now in this moment, because we are going to share a story, unless obviously people ask questions. Hi, Mindy. Welcome to the show today. So for those of us who do not know Katie, we don't know her story. We're not on social media. We're just seeing this awesome chick in front of us. Tell us a little bit about your origin story or your backstory before we got here today.
So I grew up, like, I was not a bariatric child. I was not a big child. I was the skinny little tomboy, hi Bernie, that was always running outside. My mom used to, actually, she thought it was funny because when in the summer, I would only get a sunburn in the part of my hair.
Really?
Like right here. Yeah, because I was always running around. Like, I was never one to just like be still. So yeah. So I was always skinny, and I think I graduated from high school at a weight of 120, and I'm 5'6".
You bitch.
I know. I'm so sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, graduated from high school. I went to college and I did what most college freshmen do, and they gained the freshman 15, which I did.
The infamous freshman 15.
Those freshman 15. And then what happens when you gain the freshman 15? It's like, boy, I really wish I was the weight I was in high school. And then that starts the yo-yo dieting. And then well, this didn't work. Nothing is going to work. And so I'm going to eat the way I'm going to eat, and I'm not going to exercise. And then no, I am going to exercise. And then it's like, boy, I really wish I weighed what I weighed when I was a freshman.
Right.
Gained those 15 pounds. And that just kind of snowballed into a big weight gain. And then I did what most 20-year-olds do. I got married and then had some children. And I it's kind of interesting because I lost weight when I was pregnant.
Really?
I did. I was lower I gave birth lower than my pre-pregnancy weight for both my kids.
No shit.
Mm-hmm. Now, my son was a pretty easy pregnancy. So, I don't know why. I just wasn't hungry. He took all my nutrients. He was large. He was like a big boy. Now he's like 6'2" and he weighs like about 185. He's just a string bean. Mm-hmm. My daughter, she made me throw up every day.
That could have something to do with it. And I'm wondering, like, did you find yourself eating more while you were pregnant, or were you eating about the same as you were? But now that there's another human inside of you taking nutrients, I'm wondering if that had something to do with it.
I think it did. I think I was eating less. I had a lot of heartburn. When I was in like my final month of my son, I think the only thing I ate was like Total Raisin Bran. Because that's the only thing that didn't give me heartburn. I know. Which is, I know. But then, after I had my kids, the weight, obviously they came back on. And then started the dieting again, the yo-yo dieting. And so then a friend of mine that I was working with came to me and said, hey, my grandson is going to be a personal trainer, and he's looking for like 2 or 3 people to train for free in their homes. And really all he wants is like some before and after photos and just a write-up of, how it went, how you feel.
Okay.
And all that, kind of by something that he could use to start his own personal training.
Like his marketing or like a referral or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm like, sure, why not? So I did that for about 6 months, and I lost 100 pounds. Like
in 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
No
in
shit.
6 months. And I changed, like I exercised, I did change my diet, like I took sugar out of my diet. I took most cheese out of my diet. And let me just tell you that for somebody who loves sugar, will eat anything sweet.
Yep.
I was ready to cut off my right arm and my left leg for a cube of cheese.
Yep.
At that point, I'm like, I just want, but
cheese.
I just want a cube of cheese. And but I did eventually get a little cheese back into my diet through this, because he wanted me to give up all dairy, and I'm like, listen, I'm a woman and I want bones.
Yeah.
I don't want broken bones. So it wasn't like a super restrictive, it's kind of like what I do now, honestly. But so I lost 100 pounds. I felt great. I looked great. And that worked for a while. And then I got divorced and I lost more weight. So I think I lost another 20 or 30 pounds to the point where I was sickly. Wow. And then I could not eat.
But from the stress and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of the stress of the divorce, which was, it's anybody who's been through a divorce, it's hard, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's hard. So, I got divorced. I wasn't looking good. I, really wasn't feeling that great. And I met my current husband. And what happens when you meet the love of your life, but you get comfortable?
Yep.
Yeah. And
so, okay, let me ask you, how much was it for you in the first year? Did you keep track?
The year would probably be close to 50 pounds.
I believe that, because anybody who knows Eric, like obviously he's very swollen mm-hmm. looking now, but back then he was very built or whatever, but he was never overweight. Like he was very active. He was a DJ. He was always out. I had gotten down to like 225. It was like a size 14. It was the lowest I had ever been in my life. I think we both gained 100 pounds in 1 year.
Wow.
It's fucking crazy.
It is. I mean, it's amazing, like when you're comfortable with somebody, like when you're truly comfortable with somebody, like how they make you comfortable with yourself, which is good, right? But
Right.
we don't want to give up our health for that either. And he
No,
got
I was gonna say is like when you're in a healthy relationship and like especially in the dating phase, what do? We want to go out to eat. We want like nice dinners, or you go to the movies, and if you're gonna go to the movies, you need the candy and the popcorn, and you know it's and you get comfortable, and then after as you're getting into your relationship and you're getting more comfortable, you're not going out as much because you don't have to impress each other. So then you're constantly being home together, and you're not being exercising. Or in our case, we were renting a room in a house with a bunch of people, and we didn't really use the kitchen. There was no place for us to put food. So we worked together. We would pick up fast food for breakfast. Then you're at work, we would have fast food for lunch. Then we know we're not gonna be able to cook dinner. So then on the way home, we pick up fast food for dinner. And we did that every day for a year.
wow.
And I was like, no wonder, like in hindsight.
Yeah. And my husband loves to cook. So, which is good and bad.
Right.
Because he can cook healthy, but at the time he was working at a restaurant, so he would work late. And so, I'd be like, oh, I'll grab Wendy's on the way home. I'll grab McDonald's on the way home. And honestly, like Wendy's, until I had surgery, Wendy's was my go-to at least twice a week.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I think
at least.
Yeah, there was a time when Jack in the Box was our number one go-to. We were also very piss poor at one point, so we would get like the 4 tacos for like $2.
Yeah.
And then if you filled out the survey, you would get a coupon for 2 free tacos. And I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna get Jack in the Box tomorrow. It's dinner for tomorrow. And we ate Jack in the Box like probably 3 to 4 nights a week.
Wow. Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you've gained 50 pounds in the first year, and then did it keep going up from there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It kept going up from there. And I don't know at what point I got like technically to my highest, but it just kept going up from there. And the funny thing is, it's like when I had lost the weight, I ran 3 half marathons.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's called the Flying Pig. It actually just happened this past weekend. It's an amazing marathon. It's wonderful. I don't think I'll ever be able to run it again. I would love to be able to walk it. But yeah, I can't even tell you how many 5K and 10Ks I've done. Like I have them all over my wall, my numbers.
Yeah.
So a ton of those. I mean, it was fun. Like it was fun. I did them and had a ton of fun doing them. And but then I got hurt at work. I hurt my back, and so that kind of like did not help with the weight gain, because then I couldn't exercise anymore. I couldn't walk, I couldn't run. And I didn't feel good. I was depressed, and then the weight came back on. And then I went through RN school. Which will put weight on anybody.
Yes, because I know I have friends that are nurses, and you're working sometimes 12, 14-hour shifts, and you don't have time to sit and eat a meal. It's usually hanging over the nurse's station, scarfing it as quick as you can, because you don't get the actual breaks that most people do.
Yeah. Yep. So that weight came on and stayed on. And there was, again, I joined like a boot camp, joined a gym, bought the right food. And I don't know about you, but I feel like the older we get, the more we try those diets, the less we lose weight. So then all of a sudden the things that had worked for me like 5, 8 years before no longer were working. And I'm like, giving up pop, you give up pop, you lose like 3, 4 pounds almost instantly, so I give up pop, and like all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I just gained 3 pounds. Like, how is this possible?
And it's so frustrating. And I do think age plays a factor. I think our hormones play a factor. I also think that when you get to a point where when you're doing these fad diets for so long, and it's these extremes, you're cutting out all of these things, and then like you give up, and then you binge it all back up. And I think your body's just like, I don't even want to get my hopes up anymore. Like, I'm just like, we're just going to stay where we are. Like, you keep trying what you're trying, but I'm not going anywhere. And the last straw for me was I did a juice fast for 10 days with a bunch of people. They all lost 10 to 15 pounds. I lost 1. And I'm like, I'm the biggest person in this group. Had kale and veggies. How am I not losing anything? But I didn't give up. And for 6 months, I cut out sugar, I cut out soda, I cut out garbage. I was eating lean meats, almost like Whole30 or like paleo kind of lifestyle or whatever. And at the end of 6 months, I lost 20 pounds, maybe the first month and a half, which was mostly water weight. And nothing came off. And you're like, I'm literally doing everything that I could be doing. This doesn't make sense. But I think it's just years of trauma to our body that it just, your metabolism is so out of whack, it doesn't know what to do at that point.
I agree. I 100% agree. Yeah, it just, and that's where I stopped. And a friend of mine had gotten a gastric sleeve, and she's like, you should try this. It's amazing. I feel amazing. And she had lost a lot of weight. I don't know what her numbers were, but I mean, she lost a lot. And she's like, I look amazing. I feel amazing. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but, and I didn't say this to her, of course, but because I, not this person, but I'm like, but you permanently changed the anatomy of your body.
Yeah.
And you can never put that back. Right. And that scared me because I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I feel like that's excessive.
I felt the same way.
Yeah. And I'm like, I am not ready to do that. I'm like, I feel like I can do this on my own. But as we know now, first of all, I firmly believe that I did do this on my own. That I did the work. I put the work in,
Yeah.
I had surgery, but I put the work in. I just graduated with my master's degree and I had a lot of help, but I put the work in, right?
Right.
Like,
no, so and I've been very vocal about it. Like, for many, many years, I knew people who had the surgery. I personally thought that it was cheating because I was like, you didn't gain the weight overnight. You're not going to get. Sometimes it's just having the mindset and putting in the work, and you don't want to lose it so quickly. You want to do it in slow progression. But it wasn't until I did like thing after thing and doctors and medication and everything. And you're like, okay, obviously I'm not the problem. Like, there's something going on.
Right.
And I still had reservations about the surgery, but since having the surgery, I was like, there was nothing easy about this. And it was, it was harder than if I had just done diet and exercise. This was far harder in because mentally, physically, emotionally, and all encompassing or whatever. Now, I've now eaten my own words. This was not a very easy thing or taking an easy way out. This was extremely difficult. And I worked my ass off for it.
Yes. 100%. 100% right. Yeah. And, so, she had talked to me about it and I'm like, I don't think I'll do that. I don't think that's for me. I'm like, I'm glad that you did this. You look amazing. You feel amazing. That's, this is your journey and I'm so happy for you. But something must have stayed in my brain back here, because every once in a while I would think about it. Be like, and so a few years later, and at my highest weight, I went to my husband, my daughter, and my son, and I went to Indianapolis Zoo. We went into Indianapolis for like a day trip, or an overnight trip. We love going to zoos. Like, that's our thing. Love the zoo. Cincinnati Zoo, amazing. Go if you can. We went to Indianapolis Zoo, and so we're walking around seeing the animals, and my hip and my foot hurt so bad I had to sit down on a bench, and they went around and saw all the exhibits and the rest of the animals, and I just had to sit there and wait for them to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this sucks. This sucks. This is not a life. This is not the life I want for me. At that point I was 45, 46, which I mean, I consider young. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't want to live like this. I don't want to sit out. I don't want to sit out of all the fun. I want to have the fun. I want to do the things, and I'm like, I hate this. And, I just sat on that bench and cried. in Indianapolis in the zoo. And so I came home and I got to work on Monday, called the bariatric clinic, and I'm like, hey, I'd like an appointment, please.
Now, I'm curious, and I've asked this question a lot, and it's interesting because I've gotten different answers. Up until that point on the park bench, were you consciously aware of how big you had become, or was it something that like you didn't realize how bad it was?
I would say yes and no. So it's funny because body dysmorphia is so weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, a lot of the time when I was big, I was still skinny in my head because I grew up skinny. So it's only like when I would catch myself in a mirror and I'd be like, oh, that's not so good. So then guess what happens? You take down mirrors. So you don't see yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is just depressing.
It's very depressing. But
Yeah.
that's reality, though.
Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, I would catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, like at home or at work, because you can't take down all the mirrors, because then that's weird. Because I worked in the operating room, we had to use hospital laundered scrubs. So we would go in our street clothes, get there, change into the scrubs, and go about our day. And so we used to call it the scrub lottery on whether your, scrub size fit that day or not, because they were, they were not meant for women, first of all. And
Yeah.
so like I'd be like, the scrub lottery, I lost today. Well, then it's like, oh, I lost again the next day and the next day. And then I'm like, I have to go up a size. And that is like, so that was definitely kind of like a reminder. Yeah, I was aware and I wasn't aware. I guess that's my
Yeah.
answer.
No, and I think it's a very honest answer, because I remember like many years ago, a friend of mine was going to film school and she had to make like these student films. So she would always recruit Eric and I, and she would come over and like she would make her little student films, and we were like the actors in her thing. And I'll never forget, there was one scene, it was some kind of a chase scene where Eric had to like run around, like chase me like around our complex or whatever. There was like this walkway, or like a river bend or whatever. And in my like I was huffing and puffing, and I'm like running from him, and it wasn't until we were watching the video back, because she was making sure she got the shot, and I'm like literally like, I was running so slow, and it literally, watching it, took my breath away, because in my head, dude, I was fucking running like the Dickens or whatever. And then you watch this video, it's just kind of like, and the boobs are just like, and like you just saw like this giant, and it was so different than what I was in my head. The reality that it's definitely like some kind of a reverse body dysmorphia. Like I didn't realize consciously how big I was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it freaked me out.
It is freaky. It is when you finally see, like I wouldn't say finally see it, but when you see it. And then, what else do I have? I have no pictures of me and my kids because I didn't take them.
Because you didn't want to take pictures.
I didn't want to take pictures. I would take pictures. I was the picture taker.
Right. No. I'll take the picture. You guys go. I got it.
Like, no, get in. I'm like, and then let me see. How many people can I hide behind?
Who could stand in front of me? Or if I stand at a certain angle, and if you hold the camera high enough, and it'll give the illusion that there's only one chin. And
yeah, you got to do the head tilt up.
The hell, yeah. And you suck in the gut.
The head tilt up to get your chins.
I don't think I've ever done that. I usually held the camera higher, and then I guess I did kind of look up at it.
Yeah, the head tilt up.
If you have to do like a multi-level step to take one freaking picture,
I know, right?
There's something wrong.
Then you need to start thinking about things.
A little bit. So I'm curious. So one of the things that's fascinating about your story is a lot of us don't know what it entails, when you have bariatric surgery. Like we've all have similar experiences coming out of it. But I'm just curious, you ended up working in the bariatric department. Mm-hmm. How did you get into that position?
So I worked at a level 1. I started in the OR at a level 1 trauma center. And while I was there, I was assigned the robot. So I worked with the robot there for many years, and I became the robot coordinator. And then when I moved to a sister hospital closer to where I lived, which was smaller, and I was put in all the robot cases. Well, most of the robot cases are soft tissue, and the general surgeons do them. So then I'm just, naturally moved into general surgery cases. And then when the position came up to be a general surgery coordinator, I applied for it. So in that became the bariatrics surgery coordinator. So
And so really quick, for those of us who don't know what the robot thing is, what is
that's
that?
I'm sorry. So that is the Da Vinci robotic system. So there are people in our community that had a robotic sleeve done.
Okay, so that's what I thought you were talking about. I just had a conversation. I think it was with Bruni. It was with Bruni earlier, where she was telling me about how some of the surgeries are done by robotics, and she and I were under the impression that like the doctor's standing there and he has like this little tool and he's just kind of like, and then Bruni told me, no, they're not even in there. They're in another room playing like Atari or something like that, playing like these little controls. And I'm like, they're not in the room with you? And she goes, no, they're not in the room with you. And I'm like, she goes, I thought the same thing, that they're hanging over you and they got these little machines and they click, 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 click. And I was like, okay, that freaked me out. I'm like, okay, when Katie comes on, we're going to talk about this.
I love the robot. The robot is I love the robot. I did papers on the robot. I did my capstone for my RN on the robot. But let me tell you, your little finger things is just what surgeons do with the console of the robot. That's exactly, they put
Really?
their little fingers, this.
See, I'm meant to be a doctor.
You are. But she is both right and not right at the same time. It depends on the hospital and the setup. So yes, the surgeons are not at the field when they are operating. They are somewhere else. So like when I worked at the level 1 trauma center, they were in a little room beside the OR. So like they could still, it was like connected. And that's where our consoles were. So like they could just like pop out of their console and be like, yell at us for whatever reason. When I was at Ohio State, they were right in their room. When I was at this little hospital, it was in the room. So it's like this big console, and you can look it up. So it's the Da Vinci Xi is the latest model. You got a big console, you put your face in, it's 3D. The surgeons see it as 3D. And so what's the benefit, right? What's the benefit of having a robotic surgery as opposed to laparoscopic surgery? So you now have me on the topic I love, which is robotic surgery. Almost as much as mental health. So the technology of robotic surgery is that they have instruments that are longer. Right? And the end, it has a 360 wristed technology. So how the human wrist can go like this, right? It can go all the way around. It is 360.
I see.
So it can go, it has better, articulation than our wrist. And better articulation than, so when we're doing a laparoscopic case, our laparoscopic instruments don't have that. There's no technology for that. But there is in the robotic instruments, and that's why we're doing our fingers and we're putting them in the things and we're rolling them around and we're doing all the things. Also, they have found with laparoscopic surgery as opposed to robotic surgery, there's less blood loss and less chance of like post-surgical leaks and post-surgical complications. They don't at least when I did all my research, they didn't know quite why there was such a difference between robotic and laparoscopic surgery, because you're still putting in the trocars, right? That's all the same as laparoscopic, but you're using these robotic instruments instead. But yeah, so it's super cool. Robotic, like literally, they can put the camera in as well. So if you have a regular surgery. So you have a camera that's, I gotta find like a little piece of paper. So we have a camera that's,
Like, that's just fascinating.
so your camera is like this, right? It's angled down.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
So they put it in, it's angled down, and they can move it all around. Well, they can also flip it
I see.
upside down. So it's almost like, so like for when we would do hernias and stuff, to tack things up on the top of the belly, it would be like a surgeon performing surgery laying on their back.
Interesting. And so for those who are watching this on Spotify later, it kind of looks like a really thin, like, I don't know, like a parallelogram kind of looking instrument.
So it's like, so the camera would be, it's would be down, and it would be a angled end.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what the degree
It almost kind of
is.
like an X-Acto knife, but like a camera.
Like the end of an X-Acto knife. Exactly.
See, I told you I'm meant to be a doctor. Like I'm just
you
picking up on it.
You're really good at. Now, how old are you? It's not too late to go back, Sherry. You can go back.
I'm gonna be 42 this year. I think that'd be a lot of school. It'd be a lot of school.
It is a lot of school. So let's see. You would be done when you were about 50.
You don't have to go there. Okay, so you started in like the robotic version of it, and then you actually got into the OR room.
So that was in the OR. Then I started as a robotic coordinator, then went through to the general surgery coordinator, which was partly bariatrics. Like, we were a big bariatric hospital. It's kind of funny to hear that, like, in words. We were a big bariatric hospital.
Bariatric, right?
Big bariatric. We did a lot of bariatric cases. So that was a big part of my job. A lot of, of course, you always do the little appendix, gallbladders, blah, blah, blah. Those run themselves. Bariatric surgery is a lot of work for us in the OR, not just for the patients, but yeah.
So at the time that you were part of the robotic thing and you were doing the bariatric, ward, were the thoughts still in the back of your head, or were you not thinking about it at this time?
I thought about it every surgery I did.
Really? Okay. So for those of you who are listening, I want you to listen carefully, or if you guys are watching this. So this is what really blew me away about the surgery, because I did not know what the actual surgery entails. From the patient perspective, you're given a fancy little cocktail, and then you wake up, and I woke up with a nausea cup, and I was very nauseous, and the rest is history. But obviously you're in this room for 3 to 5 hours, depending on what surgery you had. It never thought to me to ask what the process is like, or what it looks like, or what I've seen. People will get pictures sent of their stomachs being removed. I wasn't told any of that. But when I was talking to you about it, and you were telling me like what the process is, like us as the patients, like what we go through, we need to expose the truth. We need people to know what is happening when we are lying unconscious on that table.
Yes. So, okay, everybody sit down. If you've had bariatric surgery or having bariatric surgery, get ready. Hold on. Literally, hold on. So, we wheel you into the room. We take you over to the bed. You are lying nice and flat. Now, at this point, you may or may not remember, we put a seatbelt on you, may have joked, haha, so you can't get up and run away. And then you might have remembered, we might have taped something to your calves and your thighs, maybe something to your chest. You might not have remembered that. And then, we whispered sweet nothings into your ear as you drifted off to your lovely sleep.
I might remember that.
And then after that happens, then the surgeons come in and we prep your belly, make sure it's all nice and clean. And I did want to add, Sherry, before you have any abdominal surgery, please clean out your belly button hole. Clean out the belly button hole.
Wait, really?
Yes. Because if you don't, I have to.
Oh, shit. So, public service announcement, if you are thinking about having weight loss surgery or any kind of bariatric surgery and you've gotten your surgery date, we clean our belly button the morning of surgery.
Definitely. Just a little soap and water and a Q-tip in there. Twisty, twisty,
Okay.
twisty. Your OR nurse will thank you later. And if you say something, be like, I cleaned it this morning, they will love you even more. So
I'm literally going to make this a soundbite. I'm going to do a public service announcement to everybody on social media. Clean the belly button before your surgery.
Clean your belly button. That is, yes, the number one thing to do before your surgery is clean your belly button.
If you want your nurse to take extra good care of you, clean the belly button.
Clean the belly button.
Yep.
So cleany. Surgeons come in. We put those trocars in. We put your liver bar in. And then we do something that, the liver bar. Okay, so it's called a Nathanson's retractor. So it goes in up. That's your high hole. That's so anybody
the big one?
Yeah. So
wait, the one up here. Got it.
The one up here, not the So the very highest of your scars is from the liver retractor. It's called a Nathanson. Okay. We called it the liver bar because everybody likes to go to a liver bar, have a few drinks later, right?
Yeah, of course.
So we put that in, and that hooks your liver back and retracts it, right? Because you don't mess with the liver. Nobody wants to mess with the liver. The liver does not like to be messed with.
No, don't mess with the liver.
So now what happens with all your other organs? Like you got all these like intestines down here, and if you're a woman, you've got all those girl things. Well, we gotta get those out of the way too. So now we're gonna do something that this is gonna be the blow your mind part. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're laying flat.
Yes.
Now we are gonna put you to a standing position.
Nope.
Yes.
Nope.
Yes. Yep.
No.
So I'm gonna show people. You are then going to be like this. So what degree angle do you think that is, Dr. Sherry?
I think it's more than a 45-degree angle.
Yes, it is more because like this is 90, so it's probably about 85 degree angle.
Oh, actually not. I don't want to say no, not 90. Oh yeah, you're right. It's more than 45. It's more than 90. I'd probably say like 80 degrees.
Yeah, 80,
75, 80.
About 80. So we are then now in an 80-degree angle. Your feet are on a footboard so that you don't, just find like a pile of goo off the table. I know that.
So, like when you told me that, the first thing I thought was Hannibal Lecter when he's standing there and he's got his straitjacket on and like he's just like kind of like upright or whatever. I just have a vision of hundreds and thousands of Hannibal Lecters having their stomach cut open while at an upright position.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, we've tucked your arms nice and tight next to you and made you like a little burrito with some, and we do that with pillowcases because we're fancy.
Okay, okay, I have to know, like, has anybody ever fallen off?
Okay, so
you're supposed to just say no.
No. So it has never. Okay, it's never happened to me. It has never happened to the surgeons that I worked with. It happened one time with a surgical tech that I had worked with at OSU, and I don't think it was it was bariatric surgery. And what happened was they did not put the foot plate on and tight. They didn't tighten it tight enough. They put it on, but they didn't tighten it because when you're in the OR, it's like you have, your circulator nurse, your surgical tech, your surgical assistant, you might have residents, med students, your surgeon, your anesthesia, and we are all kind of like a flight crew, and we all check behind each other. And that's totally normal, and we all know that, and we accept it, and we appreciate it when we say, hey, did you do that? And you're like, yep, got it, check. We do that. That is the atmosphere of the OR. That's the culture, is to constantly be checking for safety. Constantly. Because nobody wants any patient to be hurt in the OR. That's not fun.
So was it like a slow moving thing, or was it just kind of like a?
So they had their liver bar in place, which is the most dangerous part. Like of the surgery is the liver bar. So that was in place. And what he had said is they started falling, they started moving down, and the OR tech literally threw himself up onto the patient to push him up and held him there
Wow.
until anesthesia could get the bed flat.
Wow.
I'm like, now again, this was not my patient. I was not in this OR. I'm not giving away any kind of
No.
privacy information. This was, something somebody had told me. I'm glad I was not part of that. I've never had a patient like slide off the table or almost fall off the table during bariatric surgery. So,
I mean, it's very morbid. It's kind of like having somebody in your family pass away and being in the casket, and they're putting the casket on the Hertz or whatever the car is, and it kind of falls, and
it
can be very traumatic.
That's the moment where you're like, yeah, definitely a fight or flight where you just move without thinking and get into that.
So you and I talked about this briefly, and I'm curious what other people at home think. If you were watching this day in and day out, so you knew exactly what steps were taking place, like when people are having the surgery. All of us are, for the most part, 99% of us are oblivious as to what's happening during those hours of twilight. After seeing what goes on in great detail, did it help or hinder your decision when the time came for you to think about surgery?
So, and I don't think I mentioned this when we chatted before. I think it helped because when I had my surgery, I was anxious to get my surgery date because I was starting to my OR traveling gig, and I was going to travel to Columbus from Cincinnati.
From Cincinnati to Columbus.
To Columbus. I wasn't going to say where, but that's out there now.
Oh
well. Well, I said it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
It's fine.
But at any rate, I was anxious to get my date because, I had to move up there, take my stuff, get into my rental, and then start work. And so I was anxious to get my date. So when my bariatric center called me and they said, hey, we can get you in 2 weeks earlier, but you have to go with this different surgeon. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, is he good? And they're like, yeah, he's fine. Okay. And then they're like, but you'll just meet him on surgery day. Is that okay? And I'm like, because now was going from 2 weeks out to surgery to 5 days out from surgery. So like I barely even had time for my pre-op diet, right? So I wasn't going to get to meet my surgeon. And I thought about for a second. I'm like, I'm going to be asleep. I don't care. Okay. I'm like, sure, that's fine. I'm like, and I think that's because I knew, like, as an OR nurse, like, it's more than just the surgeon. It's the surgeon, the circulator.
So because you knew everything that's involved, and there's so many people that one role is not going to make or break it for the thing.
Right. Which, of course, I'm not saying that the surgeon isn't important, because they are very important. But I also knew, like, this, the clinic that I went to, I liked. I'm like, it's fine.
I know. So when you told me this, it completely blew my mind. And I was telling, I don't know if I had known everything that it entails, I don't know if it would help or hinder. But I remember, and I think you and I talked about this. If you've ever been to Disneyland, there's the famous ride called Space Mountain. And Space Mountain, it's completely dark. It's like little twinkly. It's like you're flying in space, and you go around and you do all these, like, dips and stuff. And I'll never forget, years ago, somebody had gone on the ride and told me about it afterwards. And there was a glitch on the ride. There was a malfunction in the sense that the lights were turned on, and they rode the entire ride with all of the lights of the ride on. And they told me it was far more terrifying riding this roller coaster with the lights on, because you didn't realize how close the track is above you, because everything's dark. And even though, granted, I'm sure it was probably many, many, many feet apart, but the perception of seeing how close it is to your head. they had like this feeling that the entire ride, if he put his hands up, his hands were going to get decapitated or something like that. And that fear freaked him out so much. And I was like, oh my God, I don't ever want to go on this ride again. That I feel like if I was seeing all of these things unfold, if I had watched videos, I don't know if it would help or hinder. I don't know.
Yeah, like well, first of all, it's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. That story terrified me. I still I was just thinking about the other day too.
Oh, the Space Mountain story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
I still think about it.
I think that's way more terrifying than finding out that you're having surgery standing up, but that's just me.
I don't know, potato. I mean, like, it's just the idea of like, because my first thought is like, what if I'm the person that is not strapped in all the way and I'm the one that falls down or something like that, and I become like this weird statistic, or I become like some like, fail story in the medical world, like, oh, Sherry's the one that fell off her platform or whatever.
Luckily it is not something that happens. It's so rare because, like I said, like the surgeons that I worked for, and I took this with me when I traveled too, is like, it's the seatbelt, it's the we called them purple foam, and what it was is like just this purple foamy stuff. It was like this long, or was that about 2 feet long and about 6 inches, or 6 inches wide, and it's like egg crate on one side, and it always came in a pack of 2, and we would put that over your legs and then tape you to the table there, and then do it over the thighs, tape you over the table there, and then we'd use a blue towel over your chest and tape you there. So at no time does tape touch your skin, because that's dangerous too.
Right.
And you are well taped to that table. You are not moving. So yeah, it's the OR is an interesting place because, one, the amount of tape we go through in a day, because we use it for everything.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's like Frank's Red Hot. I put that shit on everything.
Oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, we use a lot of tape. We will do about anything to make sure that somebody is secured on a table, because the last thing that any circulator nurse wants to do is stay past her shift to write a report about a fall off the OR table.
You're like, I'm not doing it.
Not doing it. Not happening.
Oh my God, that's freaking crazy. So now I'm curious. So when being in the beginning stage, or being part of the surgery process and being part of the bariatric ward, I'm assuming like you saw people in different walks in life. Now, I don't know if you necessarily had any interaction with people post-op, like any post-op appointments or anything like that. But I feel like knowing everything that it goes into it, I do think, had I known everything that took place, the one thing I will say is I think I would have taken it even more seriously. I mean, I took it very militant, the whole post-op treatment for like the first 8-9 months. I was very, very strict. But I do think that would help enhance how strict I took this, knowing everything that it entailed to get me to this point or whatever. I feel like that would be a huge motivator to not want to stray, not want to do anything to ruin that work.
And honestly, yeah, like I can say that some of the things I saw in the OR, and not necessarily which is the bariatric patients, but other patients as well, like complications you can just have from surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I took my post-surgical instructions seriously. Like and this is kind of funny. I was on my clear liquid diet, and then I was on so I went from clear liquids to thickened liquids to whatever the baby food consistency is.
Yeah.
And I was miserable. I'm like, I am so sick of liquids. I want something that's not liquid. And so actually, I think it's from my clear liquid to, I don't think I did have a thickened liquid. I think I went from a clear liquid to a like baby food. And that's when
pureed or whatever.
Pureed, and I could put in shakes. And I'm like, I just want some shake. I'm so tired of broth. I'm tired of Jello. I'm tired of all this. And I'm like, I just want a little bit of the shake. And so I cheated and had like a couple sips of a shake and a couple bites of baby food, and went to my post-op doctor's appointment, and I'm like, she's like, so how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm okay. And she's like, how's the clear liquid diet? And I'm like, awful. And she's like, I know everybody hates it. And she's like, have you cheated? And I'm like, why is it written on my forehead? I'm like, I did cheat. I did. Please. I'm like, now like my Catholic guilt is coming out. I'm in confession.
Yes.
Oh, please, nurse practitioner, forgive me for the sins I committed when I drank that shake and ate a tiny bit of baby food.
I was just joking today. I was like, I am a terrible liar. I do not have a poker face. And if I was sitting in that office and they're like, did you cheat? I'm like, no. Like, what? Like, I'm so obviously awkward with it that I'm like,
I do.
I just like, I'm like, I might as well just tell the truth because I'm terrible.
And she's like, so what did you cheat with? And I said, I had a couple sips of a Premier protein shake and a couple bites of baby food. And she's like, and what kind of baby food? I said, carrots. And she's like, how did you tolerate it? And she's like, I'm like, I tolerated it. Actually, I tolerated it really well. And she's like, okay, good. Go ahead and advance. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. She's like, you're okay. I'm glad you tolerated it. And I'm like, I thought you'd be mad. And she's like, we have people that come in and go from surgery to Wendy's and get a crispy chicken sandwich. And I'm like, I took 2 bites of carrots, baby food, and like 2 big gulps. Well, not 2 big gulps, but the amount of 2 big gulps of a shake, and was full. And was really, I mean, I tolerated well, but I'm like, I'm like, I can't imagine doing that. But so I've seen complications. People did come back with a leak. Now, did it happen very often? No, absolutely not. But when you do several hundred of these surgeries a month, or more, which we did, then obviously what am I going to see in the OR? I'm going to see comebacks, right? So I'm going to see more of the adverse reactions than like the office would see, because they're seeing everybody come back, and I'm only seeing the complications come back. So it did scare me.
Well, and I wish that people kind of comprehended, the math part of it, in the sense that there's a lot more people you'll see on social media who have had complications. And it almost seems like it's turning a lot of people away. But keep in mind, 8 years ago when I did it, not as many people were having surgeries as they are now. So when they say that the complication rate is less than 1%, if you have 100 people who had surgery, the chances are that one person's going to have some kind of a major complication of some kind. Right. If you have 1,000 people, that's now 10. If you have 100,000 people, so the number is going to keep getting bigger. It's going to seem like there's a lot more people having complications, but it just means that's how many more thousands and thousands of people are having the surgery to begin with. So don't think of it as that it's a very common thing, but it's kind of like with a bad restaurant. Not as many people write a good review if you had a great restaurant experience, but people are gonna write reviews about the bad ones. So people will go on social media, they're gonna tell their negative story. This is what happened to me. And then these poor people who are on the fence about having surgery are gonna turn away from it because all of these people are posting negatively about it. And it's like, it's because they are part of a very, very small percentage. But the reality is it does happen.
It does. And it does just with any other surgery, with any other procedure, there are risks, and you can have an adverse event. But the other thing, 8 years ago, we didn't have the technology that we had. I talked to you about, like, I worked with an innovative surgeon that is inventing surgical instruments that's making bariatric surgery safer, more efficient, and that's amazing. I helped with the testing of those instruments, which was really cool to me. People will be like, oh, well, what did you do? I'm like, yeah, I helped, make sure the package could be opened. I helped make sure like it could be transferred sterilely. And they're like, that sounds stupid. No, to me, it's super exciting. But
Right.
I
No,
did get to also.
I'm fascinated by that stuff. Like, I don't get grossed out. Like, yes, I freaked out at the idea of being, upright or whatever, but the idea of like the mechanics of it and how it works, like, it is fascinating. After I've had it, now I want to go back and I want to learn all about it. I probably wouldn't have had the surgery if I knew ahead of time. But that's me personally.
I don't ever want to talk anybody out of surgery because you're going to be upright. I promise you'll be safe. That nurse does not want to stay. You'll be safe. But yeah, like, and I know we've talked about our mutual friend who I know you are eager to talk to on this show, so I'm not going to give away his journey. But
oh yes,
after everything he's been through, he still says 100% he would do this. And people, I've talked to people who are like, well, I don't want to do the surgery because I don't want to have the extra skin. I don't want to do the surgery because I'm going to have scars. And I'm like, I would have all the extra skin in the world if it meant I can go to the zoo with my family and see all of the animals and go to all the exhibits and not sit on a bench and cry.
Right. Yes, I think like after like 8 years out, I do think about certain plastics. I do think that like over the last 8 years, I've taken my body as far as I can, as far as like trying to reduce skin. And there's certain things that are outside of my control. So then you could think about it then. But I walked into surgery and I remember talking to my doctor about like, what happens? I've seen these stories of like this hanging loose skin. Like what if that happens? And he goes, that means the surgery was a success. And you're healthy. And I'm like, well, fuck. Yeah, I was like, you're 100% right. Like that, I should not be focusing on the vanity part of it because I would rather be a healthy weight with excess skin living for more decades than to do nothing, be 350 pounds with no excess skin, but then dying before I'm 50.
Right. Or worse, which is what I say. Worse than dying when you're 50 is having a stroke and being in a wheelchair and being in a nursing home and being on oxygen and being dependent on your husband, your kids, whoever, at a very young age when you should be in the prime of your life. You should be planning your retirement, not planning who's going to take care of you.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. And I think when like I was younger, when I was younger, weight loss surgery wasn't a thing, but if at 31, 32, was it a huge thing? Would I have done it then? I would jump at the chance. If I could go back then, I would jump at the chance to do it because it's life-changing. It is truly life-changing. And for everybody that I talk to that says, they say, what do you have any regrets for doing the surgery? They're like, yes, not doing it sooner.
This is one of the things I like about you. I had a list of questions here. I didn't have to fucking ask them because you already answered like most all of them.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, this is good. You did my job for me. I didn't have to do shit. This is why I like it. I told you when we talked on the phone, this was going to go by very, very quickly. It has already been an hour.
Wow.
And we are about to, I just literally looked at the clock and I'm like, yeah, there was a lot more that I was going to ask you about that we're not going to have time for today. So I'm just going to have you come back again. But question number one, in the last year and a half since you've had the surgery, because you were surgery in December of 2020, have we gone back to the zoo since?
We have not gone to the Indianapolis Zoo, but yes, I much frequent the Cincinnati Zoo, which honestly is harder because it's got hills.
Well, just walk me through the first time you went to the zoo and you did not have to rely on a park bench to take a break.
Amazing.
I fucking love that. And when you got your bachelor's, I'm just curious, were you more on the heavier side or were you more on the...
So I was heavier. When I had my little countdown to my final 5 o'clock of turning my last thing in for my master's degree, I put my old gown on. Literally, I'm like, this, you guys, this thing is huge. I could fit 3 people in it. And I'm like, hold on. I ran downstairs, put my husband and my son in it, who's 14, and I could have zipped it closed.
This is what, because so Katie just got her master's degree and just graduated a few days ago, which is number one. You're such an amazing feat in and of itself. I know how much work that goes into it. Not because I don't have a master's, but I remember the thing that I related to the most in the last week was, there it is, she's putting on her little Mickey ears cap and gown. Oh my God, I fucking love it.
Yeah, there we go.
One of the things that I related to so much is when I got my AA degree, which was like 2011, I was at my highest weight. I was over 350 pounds. And I have the picture of me where I think I had to get like the biggest cap and gown that you can get. And you can still see my rolls coming out of it. And I was worried that I was not going to fit into that on my graduation. And I had surgery in 2014. And I graduated in 2015, and I walked across the stage. Oh, maybe it was 2016, whatever it was. When I walked across the stage, it was a night and day difference. And I'll never forget finding the picture of my AA degree and having the picture of my bachelor's degree and putting them side to side. And it was such an amazing, like, visual of like what the last 3 years had been, and how it's such a much different experience. Like when you got the first degree, you're very proud of your accomplishment. Oh, yeah. But when it doesn't fit, it's like you just kind of want to be in the shadow. Like you don't want to be like have people notice you, especially if you're the biggest person in line who's getting their diploma. And what happens if I fall down the stairs, and like you're so inside your head. Whereas this time, like I own that shit. Like I had so much confidence, and I was excited, and I was welcome. I felt like I was graduating with my like school degree, but I was also graduating like this new body and like this new like version of myself. And it was like after that, the possibilities were endless.
Yeah. And honestly, had I not like done this, I don't think I would have gone to my graduation, because it's like you go across the stage and they put your hood on. You have to kind of duck down. They put your hood on you, and then you walk more across the stage to get your diploma. And I would have been like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So I can't like run across the stage really quick, grab my diploma and jump off.
Right.
Like I have to pause, and they have to put this thing. I'm like, I would have been like, no, I'm not going.
No,
I wouldn't have gone.
I was the girl. I'll make this quick before we go, but I was the girl who would have to go to school, and I purposely sat in the back of the class because those little desks or whatever, and it digs into your stomach, and your boobs are on the table, and there's no place for you to write anything, or you could barely put your computer on there, and it sucked, and it made. That's why I did as many online courses as they had available. Just because I didn't want the shame. I didn't want people making jokes about me or comments. And they probably weren't, maybe they were. I don't know. I didn't want to give them an option. So the idea of being able to finish that chapter of your story, like not only like the best high that you can get on an educational level, but the best high you can get like internally and how you feel about yourself. Like, I'm really fucking proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud of me too. Thank you. It was hard. It was hard, but it was worth it.
100%.
All of it. The surgery, the degree, the work. Worth it.
It's all worth it. The surgery is worth it. Like you said, the school is worth it. Putting yourself first will always 100% be worth it as long as you're putting the work in. You will have the rewards.
Yes. And before I think we go... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, because I was going to wrap up.
Just want to remind people that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and as now a mental health practitioner, take care of yourself first. Make time for yourself first. Nobody's going to take care of you like you can take care of you.
100%. And that just gave me a thought. Is I do think we 100% we need to have you back on the show again, because we didn't talk about what your surgery experience was like, what the last year and a half was like. I do think that people are going to be very, very... 2.5. Sorry, my apologies.
No, you're fine.
We're in 2023? Son of a bitch. Okay. So yes, 2.5 years. It's going by too quick. So I want to be able, next time I do want to touch on your post-op experience, because I know that we did have some minor complications and stuff. And I would like to talk about what the last 2.5 years has been like for you. But I also do want to talk about the importance of mental health, because I do think mental health is the number one issue that bariatric patients are never prepared enough for.
Yes.
I think we're getting better with it compared to like 8-10 years ago, but we're nowhere near where we need to be with it.
Right. I
And
agree.
so if you're open to that, I'd love to schedule a time to have you come back.
I would love to. There is, like I said, the two most favorite things I love to talk about is the robot and mental health. And I agree. I think, and I hear that comment a lot, is people say I wasn't ready for the mental health aspect of this surgery. And you know, that's why I love TikTok, is because I love to be able to get on there, and when people are like, I'm not ready for this, I'm not ready for that, I'm like, well, how can I help you? Let me talk to you about this. Let me, you know, recommend this kind of therapist to talk to. Like, yeah, I love talking about mental health. I could do it all day, and I do.
I love that. No, I absolutely love that. So for people who are listening at home, if you have any questions that you want to ask Katie Bug, you can either email me at info@sherryarcuria.com. You can even comment on these videos, whether it's on YouTube or on Spotify or whatever. I'll make sure that I get them to her. You can also follow her on TikTok at Katie Bug. I think it's
0106.
Thank you. 0106. Katie Bug 0106. And then, yeah, so on that note, I seriously, my headphones are like, I think it knows it's time because it's like falling off my head. But I just want to say thank you again so much for taking time out of your day today to talk to us. I think this episode was absolutely fascinating because it's not something that we've talked about before.
Right.
And I think people are going to get a lot of benefit from it. And yeah, we're just going to have you back. That's just happening.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed this. And yeah, that hour went quick, girl.
It goes by really, really quick. 100%. So, yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and we will see you next